Welcome to Sisflix, the podcast where we won't judge you for talking through the movie. Sisflix are the movies you laugh at, yearn for, and overanalyze with your girls, significant others, and now us.
We are your hosts,
Paola
and Nadhya, two sisters and designers who discuss chick flicks we hate to love,
tropes we love to hate,
and all of the aesthetic choices in between. Join us as we break down our favorite movies together.
Hey, sister.
Hey, sister.
Happy January.
Oh, no. Happy January.
Here we are. It's 2025, baby.
Motherfucker. Another fucking year. Again.
Yo, I can't believe that we're wrapping up Heartstopper season 3.
It's been a long journey.
Oh, it's been an emotional journey.
It has.
It's been a roller coaster of a journey.
We do so
Holy
much
shit.
therapy off mic with each other.
Can't.
I'm shocked of how much therapy we got on mic as well.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. I know this show really does elicit the emotions.
Such a good show.
It is. It's a great show. And yeah, we're wrapping it up. Maybe we'll get a little bit emotional. Although I will say these episodes are probably like the most uplifting of season 3.
Yes. No. Here you start feeling a little bit better.
You end season 3 on such a higher note than how you get into it. And we did cry in our last 2 recap episodes.
But
But I think maybe we'll get through this recap intact. Again, I am PMSing like something that needs to be recorded in the universe. So who knows? I might start crying right now. But so far, we're chilling. We're okay. We'll see.
it's been a journey. It's been emotional and fun and fucking adorable at the same time and exciting. Since we started covering this back in October and we've covered the seasons back to back, we've been able to see the growth so quickly between season 1 and season 3. Being able to watch it and analyze it and break it down the way we have these past couple of weeks has been a lot of fun and super interesting just to see the growth in the characters and the evolutions of their journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of getting into really wrapping up season 3, wrapping up Heartstopper up to this point, we've got episodes 7 and 8. You know, Charlie has gone back to school after his mental health crisis that he was having like throughout the year, his eating disorder treatment, his inpatient treatment. We've seen Charlie and Nick get through the holidays. We've seen Charlie go through a partial relapse of self-harm. We've also seen him kind of come back from that, strengthen his relationship with Nick. We've seen Charlie's birthday. He turned 16. We see kind of the evolution of all of their other friends too, like Nick, Tara, Elle. We see them planning for their futures for when they're going to college. Darcy and Imogen, we see them planning for their futures. We see kind of all of these characters really like growing up, I guess, in front of our eyes. And we're going to continue that as we discuss episode 7. So where we left our characters coming out of Charlie's birthday party, Charlie and Nick, they really like each other, as they should. They're boyfriends. Tara and Darcy are kind of working together to support Tara through, you know, her academic anxiety as she's pretty much finishing up like her senior year, I guess, of high school in that vein. We're seeing Elle dealing with questions about her gender, right, from outside sources, from really shitty adults, and having to handle issues of transness in society, a thing that is not her responsibility as a teenage girl. We're seeing kind of Darcy really coming into themselves and being a more fully realized and comfortable person, right? Discovering who they are when they're in a safe environment living with their grandmother. And we're also seeing kind of in the background of this, Tori developing a friendship with this new friend, Michael. So very exciting. All of these characters are like making big moves. So heading into episode 7, which is titled Together, we open the episode with a dancing montage where we see Tara at her ballet class. So I think it's been like lightly mentioned before that in addition to a bunch of extracurricular activities that Tara participates in, she's obviously a stellar student. She's doing that like Oxbridge thing at school. And she also participates in dance classes and has been a dancer throughout her life. So now we're seeing her dancing in the flesh. She's at a ballet class under like an upbeat song. And we see these scenes interspersed with cuts of Nick and Charlie interacting. And what we're supposed to take from these cuts of Nick and Charlie, which are kind of quick vignettes of them hanging out at Nick's house, them hanging out at school, them on the rugby pitch, like little tiny moments captured between them, is that Nick's attraction to Charlie is mounting. They're boyfriends, right? As they would say in England, they fancy each other.
He's fancying him a lot.
A lot.
He really fancying him. It's not more like, oh, you cute. No. It's like, oh.
That's my man's.
That's my man. I'm going to stand by him.
As we talked about in episode 6, when they did the little meet and greet with Jack Maddox, Charlie's favorite author, played by just the incredible Jonathan Bailey. You know, something that they talked about after Charlie's birthday was kind of moving their relationship forward physically, right? Potentially having sex and whether they feel ready and having more open and honest discussions about feeling desire and also obviously about consent. And so the open lines of communication are something that we've seen really evolve with them throughout season 3, especially I think in episode 6, and that continues through episode 7. Coming out of that discussion, in this like juxtaposition against Tara in her dance class, moving her body, doing something physical, doing something that's like expressive, then we also have these moments of Nick, I think, feeling something less external, something that's more like inside of his feelings for Charlie, a different type of expression, right? Because a sexual relationship with someone that you care about, not that every romantic relationship needs sex to be valid, because they don't. In this particular relationship with Nick and Charlie, where it is the two of them and they want to participate in sexual activity with each other, it's going to become something that's an important form of communication, physical communication. So I think it's interesting that they intersperse the scenes of Nick feeling more desire for Charlie against Tara's dancing scenes. And the way that we kind of visualize more of Nick's desire, as again we've seen in the last 2 episodes, is these like zips and zaps. So we get these little animated lightning strikes on screen whenever Charlie and Nick touch each other, whenever they're near each other. He kind of stares at Charlie because he likes him so much, and then we get a little zip, 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 zip.
Yeah. A lot of times when you think about a relationship between two people, you think of it as a dance.
Ooh,
you know?
I like that a lot better than what I said. Go on.
Well, I think it you know,
for those of you listening at home, Paola's making hand waves and flowing.
You know, it flows. Yeah.
She flowing.
You know, we flowing, we vibing.
I'm dead.
We flowing, we vibing.
We flowing, we vibing, we thriving.
Yeah. So nice call out. As I'm rewatching that, I'm like, I myself ask myself, like, I wonder what they're trying to say or what they're communicating by cutting between Tara and Nick, because it felt so intentional. So I really like that connection that you made. That's great.
So after this really upbeat montage, we get our title card together.
Already so much more positive than our past couple of episodes. It feels like we're about to like maybe just settle.
Yes, it feels like we're just going to be able to settle. The music is more upbeat. Everything is a little bit brighter. Everybody's a little bit happier. And you're feeling that like reinvigorated energy that I think the top half of the season definitely brought way down, right? Like way heavier for several episodes. You're already coming into this like with more optimism. And I think coming out of episode 6, that ends kind of on a high note. So that's pretty fun. I also think that the song that they used during the opening is really nice. So it's a song called Dive. And I made this joke like a few recap episodes ago, how like the songs are so well chosen for each part. It's almost like the Love is Blind songs. Being like, is he cheating on me? And like, you know, and there's cheating happening on screen.
As he's cheating on you?
Yes.
Yeah.
But this one is like a song that's talking about desire and a song that's talking about like taking the leap, right? You want to dive into the situation. This is Nick feeling ready to get into whatever physical situation he wants to get into with Charlie. So I really liked the song choice as well. Yeah, I mean, again, I love this show. Whatever. I'm so upset. I love it so much. I'm so frustrated by how much I like it. After the dance ceases, we get our last shot of Nick just like staring longingly at Charlie, get our title card, and then we get a really nice scene between Tara and Nick where they're at the park sharing a bench with each other. She is meeting Nick's new dog, Henry, who's a precious little peanut, and they're pretty much catching up, right? Like, we've seen them throughout the season be these like touchstones for each other. We're checking in. How are you doing? How's Darcy? How's Charlie? How are you handling that? And something that I think Tara has been really good at and continues to be really good at in this scene is reminding Nick to prioritize his feelings. Nick has the tendency to kind of invest himself a lot in Charlie's mental health and preserving Charlie's feelings, and he is easy and quick to forget himself and forget to accommodate his own feelings and acknowledge that he can also experience difficulty, even though Charlie's experiencing a different kind of difficulty. So that's the gist of their conversation, where she's like, listen, you've also been experiencing something difficult. It's been kind of a roller coaster. Charlie's getting better, but like, you're also going through a lot, because not only are you going through just your own regular life, which involves getting older, looking at universities, dealing with his family, but you're also dealing with what Charlie's dealing with, because you're supporting him a lot. He's your boyfriend.
I think the last time we heard Nick express his personal feelings, his own, just his, was probably in Journey, the episode where he's telling Charlie's story from his point of view. So that says a lot.
After this scene where Nick and Tara are having this discussion in the park, she's reminding him to prioritize himself, we cut to Truum, where we see our core three, our boys, Charlie, Tao, and Isaac, our Truum trio, in sex ed, their version of health class, doing sex ed. They are putting fucking condoms on cucumbers. Oh my God. That's okay. Fine. I guess it's condom application's important. So Tao, Charlie, and Isaac are sitting together at a table in the back of the class. They each have a few condoms and their cucumbers. And they're talking about, I guess, their like nascent sex lives, right? Like Charlie's kind of like, I think I'm ready, but I'm really nervous to kind of start having sex with Nick because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And Tao is like, shut up already. Like, he's just like, just fuck,
just do it.
Just fuck or don't, but shut the fuck up. I'm tired of hearing about it. And both Charlie and Isaac are like, we've heard you talk about the first time you had sex with Elle or whatever like a bajillion times. Shut the fuck up, Tao, you fuck. And also Tao's the first one to put the condom on the cucumber, which I did think was funny because he was also the first one to probably literally use a condom
out of their friends.
I also think this conversation, aside from, just like joking with each other and stuff, I think it's really nice because both Isaac and Tao are really supportive of Charlie. And Tao also is pretty honest of like, no one knows what they're doing the first time they have sex. They were like, Elle and I had sex for the first time at like a party. Like, we didn't know what we were doing. You have sex with each other because you love each other and you're comfortable with each other, and because you keep doing it and you learn what you like. Like, that's how it goes. No one's good at it the first time. That's just part of it. And it's honestly one of the most mature things you ever hear Tao say.
Because it's not any one thing. It's you learn what your partner likes and you learn what you like. And it's not meant to be, just this thing you do. It's just meant to be a further exploration of the feelings you have for each other. And I think Tao explained that really well for them.
Very mature. I don't know why I was surprised. Like, that seems bad. Tao's a good character.
I feel like Tao's pretty mature. I mean, I think where Tao struggles is emotional maturity.
That's a fair point.
Plus, he's come a long way, I think. Pun not intended. I'm sorry.
Rose. And something that's cute is that throughout this scene, Nick and Charlie are texting. Charlie's like, I'm in sex ed. Sex ed is stupid. And then it immediately goes to flirting of like, I could teach you some sex ed. Like some dumb shit like that.
I thought it was so funny. He's like, we're putting condoms on cucumbers again. And Nick is like, maybe you should try it not on a cucumber. And I'm like, oh shit. No. Okay, Nick.
My favorite text is that Charlie responds to that and goes, gay.
Gay.
I'm dead. And then
yeah, they're hilarious.
ironically, because Nick is a year above Charlie, right? So he seems to be in kind of like a separate workshop where he and his classmates are discussing their futures, right? They're getting ready to apply to university, have jobs, go into trades. So they're almost doing like a little mind map, like vision board type thing about like their future and how they see their futures going. And they're all sitting in groups. Nick is sitting with his 3 rugby friends. I did forget their names, but they're good friends. We like them a lot. The one with the dreads, the one who wears glasses, and the like pale one. So
Redhead.
the redhead, great. Very nice friends. So here in this scene, we hear and see that Harry is seated at a different table with a different group of friends. He is loudly recounting a sexual encounter that he had with a girl, and it's a little bit obnoxious. Nick and his friends are talking about like sex is scary, kind of like they're afraid of it. Like, I think virginity's bullshit. One of them says, like, I know the concept of virginity is bullshit. And I was like, hell yeah, claps, amazing. And the other ones are like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's about like being together, but like I don't want to be bad at it. But they're having almost the same conversation that Charlie's having with his friends. It kind of dispels this belief that like, well, the older boys know what to do.
Right.
Because they're only a year apart, but that was definitely a stereotype in my high school of like the older kids are all fucking around and they all
like
know
the
what's
seniors,
happening.
yeah.
And it's like, no, they don't. They're all dumb and young, just like us. Everybody's self-conscious about it. Like, no one knows what they're doing. As we wrap up these scenes, at the end of Charlie's conversation with Tao in their sex ed class, he very briefly asks, like, oh, hey, what ended up happening with Elle's interview, the interview that we saw her participate in episode 6? Tao gives a very vague answer where he's like, you know what? They're not going to air it, actually. And Charlie's like, oh, and lets it drop. From that scene, we cut to Elle in a painting class over at Lambert talking to the professor that actually pitched her for this interview at this radio station. And Elle is working on a beautiful self-portrait. Her teacher comes over. It's like, the self-portrait's lovely. Great job. And Elle's like, yeah, I don't think I like it anymore. So obviously this is kind of a moment where Elle is questioning her self-image and her own identity. Her teacher's like, I heard about the interview. Like, your parents called me. I'm so sorry.
I mean, the teacher's got to feel terrible because she's the one that set her up for that interview.
For sure. Elle's giving her nothing. Elle is just like, yeah, it's fine. I don't want to talk about it. The teacher, very disappointed, walks away. From that scene with Elle, we cut to Charlie and Nick walking home from school. They're clearly going to Nick's house, and they're feeling frisky. They are running home so that they can fucking canoodle.
They had all that sex thing going on during school hours. Like, oh, it's after school now, baby. What's that? All that shit you were talking about, huh?
Oh no!
You want me to put a condom on what? On not a cucumber? Let's give it a try.
Oh my god! Oh my god! So they, again, run into Nick's home specifically to canoodle.
Canoodle.
Correct. To canoodle. To neck. They get up into Nick's room. They're necking. Nick and Charlie walk in literally making out. Like, they can barely walk into Nick's room for how hard they're making out. They end up on his bed. Who immediately walks into Nick's room without knocking? Fucking David. Everyone's fucking traumatized. And then Nick and Charlie are like, ooh, maybe we should wait. We cut from there to Charlie back at his own house. He's drumming. He looks like he's pretty contented. He's not like doing the frustrated drumming that we've seen him do to blow off steam. And he and Nick are texting, and Nick is like, I just feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Again, a continuation of these previous conversations we've seen them have with their friends. Now they're having with each other. Charlie's like, I don't know. I think you're doing a pretty good job. I think we'll be fine. So they're clearly both still excited and still feeling frisky. From there, we cut to Tao and Elle in Tao's room. Tao is practicing his drawing, and Elle is like sitting pretty silently on his bed. She's still definitely feeling pretty dejected about the interview, maybe about her conversation with her professor earlier that day. She asks him like, hey, can I sleep over? And he's like, no, you know how my mom is about it. Like, she's probably going to say no. And I was like, fine. I just kind of didn't want to be alone. And Tao's like, do you want to talk about it? She says no. He lets it go, and he's just like, you know, is there anything that I can do? I just want to do something to make you feel better. And she just wants to be held. So he holds her, and that's what she needs from him, his form of comforting her. And also, I think another sign of Tao maturing, it's his form of like listening to her and respecting what she wants, not assuming that she needs more from him, not trying to do the most.
Which is typical Tao.
Yes, yeah. Which is very typical of his character. We cut from that scene to a very brief scene of Tara and Darcy in Darcy's room at Grant's house. They're having a moment on Darcy's bed. They're making out, starting to get intimate. And Darcy's kind of like, you never sleep over anymore. Like, we barely ever hang out. And Tara's like, yeah, I've just been really stressed. And it's clear that something that the filmmakers show people are trying to show us is like they're getting their relationship a little bit back on track, right? They spent a lot of time focusing on Darcy's safety, where Darcy was living, being away from their mom, moving in with their gran. And then we spent some time with Tara being very academically anxious, really anxious about her future, really not wanting to discuss her success, her grades, all her extracurriculars, whatever. Now they're finally kind of getting back on the same page. And they're showing us them being back on the same page by showing us moments of intimacy between them.
There's this part where I think Darcy's asking Tara, like, if she's okay or something like that. And Tara, I think for the first time, is like, I'm going to look after myself and do what I want. So I think that she's reached a point where she's like, you know what I'm doing is supposed to be for me. I'm going to do it how I want for myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe even part of opening with her doing something she's passionate about, like dancing, is the show showing us that kind of refocus, because she spent so much of her time and energy and stress on her academics this year. And Darcy's like, and does that include me? And it's like, yeah, that includes you. Shit.
Baby.
And they get to it.
And they get busy.
Let's get busy.
And we just got busy.
Oh
my God. Woo. Got the buddy and the booty. And if you guys don't know what those phrases are from, go listen to our episode on brown sugar, because it's fucking ridiculous. After that scene with Tara and Darcy, we cut back to a brief scene at Shroom where we see the boys in their form groups. Nick is signing Charlie's uniform shirt. That seems to be tradition, because Charlie is now preparing to take his GCSEs the way we saw Nick take his GCSEs last season. Their form group is dismissed. Charlie is the last one to leave the classroom, and Mr. Ajayi kind of calls him back. Also, Mr. Farouk, as Bauna mentioned in the last episode, I think, is their form teacher. So yeah. Mr. Ajayi comes into Mr. Farouk's room, that's his man's, and he's like, Charlie, can I talk to you for a second? Takes him aside. He's the last one left in the classroom, and he's like, I wanted you to apply to be head boy for next year. Hands him a sheet of paper that's like a head boy application. Head boy just seems to be like your student leader.
Sounds a lot like what they asked Tara to do at the beginning of the season.
So he's like, I think you should apply to be head boy. I think you'd be really good at it. You've been through a lot, but you're crushing it, right? You're really strong. I think you'd be a great candidate. And Charlie's kind of taken by surprise, and he's like, oh, okay. I mean, sure, I guess I'll think about it. And before he leaves the classroom, Mr. Farouk stops him and goes, hey, Charlie, I think a lot of boys would really appreciate seeing you as head boy. Think about it. And Charlie kind of gives him a weird look, and he's like, okay. And I'm crying because right after that, Mr. Farouk looks over and we see sitting at one of the empty tables a little child, 11-year-old Mr. Farouk.
Oh, this scene, tears. Really, it was so precious because we learned in season 2 how he talks about not having had the opportunity to explore his sexuality until his adulthood. And he felt how he missed out on so much as a young boy. And so having this flashback of himself as a young boy sitting at the chair that we know to be Charlie's chair has this meaning of he could have really used someone like Charlie, somebody to look up to, comfortable in their sexuality. And also he probably sees a bit of himself in Charlie as well. And we see Mr. Farouk as such this tough guy character, right? He has this facade, and then to see this vulnerable moment and to see him as a kid, it's just you felt that for him. And he's teary-eyed, and then he gets his own purple leaf.
Yeah.
In this scene, kind of showing him going through this journey on his own by himself as a little boy and now as an adult. I get goosebumps.
Yeah.
Goosebumps. So how was trying to get through this recording without crying, Nadhya?
I'll tell you right now, it was a fail. If this was a class, I failed it. Capital F.
Oh yeah.
As I was rewatching it, I started crying. I tried to be a gangster. I tried to be a thug, and I wasn't.
No.
I wasn't any of those things. I'm not a gangster. I'm not a thug. I'm a girl crying at a TV show.
Thugs cry. There's a whole song about it.
I'm weak. I hate you. God, you're the worst. So we see Mr. Farouk and Mr. Ajayi, our favorite elder boyfriends, go together for lunch. After that scene, we cut back to Elle at Lambert. She's looking at her finished self-portrait. Her friend, well, her two friends that we've met before, Naomi and Felix, are with her like, oh my God, your portrait's gorgeous. You should take a picture of it and post it to Instagram. Elle is hesitant. She's answering with a little bit of bitterness. She's still clearly thinking about this like shitty experience that she had. And remember, you know, her friend Naomi is also a trans woman. Her friend Felix is non-binary. They both are on this like journey as well, as Elle is talking to them about how she's been feeling since her really shitty interview. She's like, you know, Tao wants to help. He wants to be there for me, but I just feel like he doesn't get it. Naomi and Felix take her hands and they're like, we're here for you. We get it. You're not alone. You're not dealing with any of this alone. So I love that. I love friendship.
And community.
People with similar experiences, meeting people with similar experiences. From that scene, we cut back to Truum, where in a sun-dappled locker room, Nick and Charlie are getting changed for rugby, and they're fucking flirting like they always fucking are. Jesus Christ. They're watching each other change, because of course they're doing that, because they fancy each other. And they get out onto the rugby pitch, they make out a bunch, and they keep fucking flirting. At one point, the coach, Mrs. Singh, is like, guys, fucking quit it. This is the last practice of the season. I need you to pay attention. And as Ryan and I were watching, we were like, pay attention to what? It's the last practice of the season.
Why are they not having pizza
Literally,
somewhere?
I'm like, where's the pizza party? Come on. So after that scene, we see Charlie arrive to his house. He is accompanied by Tori and Michael. They're just always together now. So you gotta fucking love that. Charlie's talking about, like, I guess on the way home, which I also love, like, he felt comfortable enough to talk to Tori and Michael about potentially having sex with Nick. When are they going to do it, right? Like, every time they kind of start getting intimate, they get walked in on, whether it's at Nick's house, Charlie's house, wherever. Michael and Tori aren't super helpful, but it does add just like a comedic little moment.
I love it.
Like, Michael is so fucking awkward. I love him.
First of all, he makes the very true point where he's like, well, a sleepover seems a bit unnecessary for the activity in question. Like, you don't, this doesn't need to be a sleepover. He's like, you can do it wherever you want, whenever you want.
Because Charlie's way to attack this, I guess, is to go to his parents. And he makes the joke of like, I need to get mom in a good mood. And Tori's like, yeah, good luck. And he wants to go to his parents and be like, I want to have a sleepover with my boyfriend. And everybody knows that's like, you guys are going to fuck. Like, you're going to have sex. Mm-hmm. So Charlie's like, I'm going to ask if I can have a sleepover. Tori's like, yeah, good fucking luck.
Michael goes, good luck with your sex sleepover.
I love him. I love him. Make him my friend. Bring him to me. I love him. And Charlie's like, you've both been no fucking help. Bye. Which I love.
If you have no further fucking advice,
yeah,
I'm out.
I'm outie. Deuces. Then we see a very brief shot of Tao in his bedroom. He's editing some video footage, some like B-roll basically that he's taken of Elle. He's editing it together on his computer. You can tell he's kind of thinking like, what am I going to do with this? And as he saves the project, he titles it Elle Short Film. Something's a brewing with some of this footage and Tao. After that scene is when we cut to the car ride with Nick and Tara. So he's driving Tara to her dance class. This is pretty much a continuation of the conversation we saw them having earlier in the episode at the park, where Tara's kind of like trying to remind Nick, you need to prioritize yourself. You need to journal. You need to take care of yourself. You need to be thinking about yourself rather than focusing so much on Charlie's mental health, Charlie's improvement, Charlie's comfort. Those things are important, but so are you. And Nick is kind of like, okay, fine. Like, this is clearly something that he's not great at, right? Like prioritizing his own well-being. They also have a conversation kind of about sex where he's like, I think I'm ready to take that step with Charlie and I'm kind of nervous. Tara's kind of like talks a little bit about how she and Darcy have part of their relationship. Sex has been a part of their relationship for a while. Obviously, it's important to just like communicate, have fun, be comfortable, that Nick and Charlie love each other and they communicate openly, they're honest with each other. That's like the most important part. We hear Nick just go like, yeah, I mean, so you've been doing this for a while, right? Like, do you have any tips? And Tara's like, no. Y'all are boys. I'm a lesbian. And he's like, oop, yeah, you're right. So fun moment of levity right there. We learned a little bit about, like, you know, Tara and Darcy. Like, it seems like, especially because they've been dating for a longer amount of time, it seems like they've been sexually active for a while. And that's something that Tara's pretty comfortable discussing openly with Nick, which I think is sweet. I think he takes into account that other people in his friend group are a little bit more like experienced sexually. I don't know if that's something that he's self-conscious about, but I feel like in this conversation he clocks it, that Tara and Darcy have been.
Yeah, it's like, oh, so y'all have been. Oh,
exactly.
Okay. You did it in where?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Why'd you do that? Yeah. And Tara's kind of like, yeah, well, you and Charlie have waited a long time. You've clearly both thought a lot about what you're doing. You love each other. You care about each other. Like, it makes sense that you're doing this, and basically kind of emphasizing to Nick, like, and you're safe together. This will be
and
good.
also coming out of, like, earlier in school, he was hearing the other guys talking about, I think it was Harry was like in a table across from him, and he can still hear him about his encounters. And so kind of still with that, and then hearing Tara, like, oh shit, okay, well, and that's a bit of a late bloomer, which he's not. I mean,
he's young. Obviously, Nick has been around other boys. They go to a boys' school. They hear boys talk shit all day, and they play rugby. So it's like you're going to hear lots of different stuff about, like, what other boys are doing, if they're dating girls, if they're sexually active. So another thing I really like here is that during this conversation, Tara mentions that she really likes taking ballet, but it takes a long time for her to get there. She has to take 3 separate buses to get to ballet class. And Nick, who is driving her home, is like, I'll drive you to ballet. I'm not busy on Saturdays, whatever. I don't care. And Tara's like, Nick, you can't just, like, do that. Like, you can't just do things for everyone all the time. And he's like, but I want to. And now you're kind of like, oh, Nick, do not burn the candle at both ends, you sweet, beautiful teenager.
Yeah, he's just a sweetheart.
Yeah, he's just like,
that's just who he
person.
is. He's always going to make himself serviceable when he can be.
After that scene, we see Tara dancing in her dance class, and we see Darcy approaching through the glass doors of the studio where Tara's dancing. And Tara's like, oh my God, what are you doing here? We cut to after the dance class. They're sitting together. And Darcy's like, I just wanted to come see you dance. Like, you're always so happy when you dance, which is very sweet. And Tara's like, how'd you get here? And Darcy's like, I took the 3 buses. You know what I mean? Like, I figured out how to get here.
If they wanted to, they would.
Damn. Yeah, you're right. Tara and Darcy have a very sweet conversation, a kind of a continuation on the discussion that they were having in Darcy's bedroom. You know, you've been really stressed lately, and Tara's like, yeah, I think it's getting better, right? Like, I know that we haven't been in a normal place. They're kind of coming back to each other. They're settling themselves, I think, in a personal way, in a way that's going to make them better in their relationship. Darcy is also like, you know, I just wanted to thank you for all the ways that you supported me, right? Like, I lived with you before I moved in with my gran. You helped convince me to cut my hair when I kept freaking out about cutting it because I wasn't sure, like, how I wanted to look. And, like, me being non-binary, right? Like, you're so supportive, and I just really appreciate that. And Tara's like, yeah, duh. Like, of course I'm going to do all that stuff. Like, I love you.
This is where Darcy officially comes out to Tara as non-binary. It's significant because, you know, Darcy brings it up so casually, and Tara's like, oh, so non-binary, huh? Darcy's like, yeah, I think.
Like, it feels right. Again, very sweet. Just, like, expressing that gratitude to, after that really sweet scene at the dance studio, we cut over to Charlie's house where he's in the kitchen with his mom. We get a very brief montage under upbeat music of Charlie and his mom.
You literally read that in the subtitle. Upbeat music.
Oh, no, I didn't. I just said it.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Because that's what should it be saying. Upbeat music.
Upbeat music. Happy indie music. They work together to choose a meal out of Charlie's, like, diet binder that he came home with from the inpatient facility. So something that helps him kind of plan out and work on his meals so that he's more aware of what he's eating in a healthy way and has a little bit more like participation in the food that he's eating. So he helps prepare this meal with his mom, which is very cute. It seems like they have a nice time together, which we never see. Charlie and his mom kind of seem to always be at odds. After they've successfully eaten this meal, Charlie and his mom are cleaning up the kitchen together. And he says, you know, I had a really nice time like doing that with you. And his mom's like, yeah, we should do that again.
It really is like the one positive interaction we see them have in the whole series.
Ever. All the interactions are like neutral bad.
Yes. Jeez.
They like really get under each other's skin. And as they're next to each other, I guess Charlie thinks about like, oh, getting mom in a good mood so I can ask her to have a sleepover with Nick. He's like, so Nick and I were wondering if we could have a sleepover. And his mom is like, ooh, like, okay, that's like a really big step. I'm not 100% saying no, but like you and Nick are really young and like we really want you to focus on your exams. You have your GCSEs coming up. Like we can talk about this again after the GCSEs. So she's not saying no. She's not like, ew, gross, shut up, you're so stupid. She's like, no, we had an issue where you really weren't focusing on school and I'd like it if you did. So focus on school and we'll talk about it after that. Charlie's like, we wanted to have this sleepover soon.
Like it needs to be soon.
It needs to be tomorrow.
I'm horny.
I'm so
and
fucking
I need
horny
to have sex with my boyfriend.
Mom, I am gonna get violent. And she's like, fucking chill. Like, and he's like, oh, so you just think I'm like mentally ill and stupid. You think I'm a child. And it's like, baby, you are a child. You're 16 fucking years old.
She doesn't say that, but
I'm
that's
saying
what we're
that.
saying.
God. This is like when I see fucking Little Mermaid and Ariel's like, I'm not a child, father. And it's like, you are.
Also, before he tries to ask his mom, he looks to his dad first. And like he kind of looks at his dad and his dad kind of like nudges his head over, almost like, oh, yeah, go ahead and ask now. Mm-hmm. So he had this conversation with his father or something. He mentioned it to his dad and his dad's kind of giving him the go, like, go ahead and mention it to your mom.
I didn't clock that.
So the dad already knows. And you're telling me that you didn't prep your wife to receive this question?
Ooh.
Where's the fucking teamwork?
Ooh.
Your son didn't have this conversation with you and you weren't like, hey, wife, this is how Charlie's feeling. I just want to let you know he might ask you a question. Think about your response. Anything.
Yeah.
No teamwork. The dad, he
floating.
He just be floating out here.
He leaves his wife out to dry.
Honestly, though. Often. All right.
Dude. And so as Charlie's tone kind of sharpens in this conversation with his mom, we get one cut over to where Tori and Charlie's dad are like putting dishes away. They look back and they're like, oh shit, some shit is about to pop off.
The dad's like, it wasn't a good time,
oh fuck,
I guess.
Oh fuck, oh shit.
Sorry, abort.
Abort.
No, not happening.
The mom is kind of like reiterating her very reasonable position. Hey, this is a big step. Your GCSEs are coming up. You're young. And Charlie's like, oh, so I'm too mentally ill. I'm too fucking crazy to do this with my boyfriend. And his mom is like, what? No, who said that? And then she's like, yeah, I mean, you have been through a lot, but like, also, no, that's not what I was saying. This is a big step and you're young. And Charlie's like, Mr. Jai nominated me to be head boy. He doesn't think I'm too mentally ill. And his mom is like, what? And then she's like, cool. Like, congratulations, but I'm so confused. Why are we talking about this? This is the first time I'm 100% on the mom's side.
Tori jumps in.
Oof. Tori jumps in and she's like, Mom, we all love Nick. Relax. And she's like, girl, that is not the time.
We do all love Nick, and it's not about loving Nick or not. Everybody kind of does gang up on her in this moment.
Dude, and she is being perfectly reasonable. Perfectly reasonable. Especially like she's like, I'm not saying no. When I first watched this episode, I thought that interaction was going to go totally differently. I thought it was going to be the moment where he and his mom are like seeing eye to eye, where she's like, I'm not saying no, focus on your exams. And I thought Charlie was going to be like, okay.
Like the thing we've been saying,
yes!
Like, oh, try to have a conversation with your son. Like
yes, like once you do your exams,
taking those steps.
Have a celebratory sleepover after. And I thought Charlie was going to be like, okay, I didn't want to wait, but fine. No, he has a full tantrum. It's so stupid. And then he flees their fucking house. He storms out and leaves his mom behind. First of all, he storms out. You know he's just going to go to Nick's house. He slams the door. White people do not fear death, and leaves his mom behind. She's got tears in her eyes. She's like crying at how fucking sideways this interaction just went. And then her husband, who's been in fucking outer space this entire time, goes over to her and he's like, "Are you all right?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's fucking crying. Like, no, she's not all right. And where the fuck are you, Dad? I'm so heated.
Listen, and on the rewatch, it made me so mad when I realized that he knew because he gives Charlie like the okay to ask her. I was like, oh wow. So you just set her up.
Charlie
You left her out there.
He went so far left. That was such a stupid fucking interaction.
No, I think
Paola.
it was very teenagery. Like that's what a teenager would do. I don't think you're asking a horny teenager to be reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you. I don't disagree.
Yeah, no.
I'm mad about it. I know in 3 years you're going to say yes to something and your kid is still going to find a way to be mad at you. Like, I know. You're like, yeah, no, I'm not relishing that. But I'm just like, what the fuck, Charlie? You had an in. You were about to get the thing you wanted. You just had to wait a little bit longer. And then you flip out on your mom. Like, Jesus. So.
Well, and he's projecting. He feels like he's being coddled, right? Because when she's like, you're 16 and you've been ill, that's what triggers him. He's like, oh, so I'm fucking ill, so I can't do shit.
It's a sucky scene. And the next scene after that shitty scene at Charlie's house is Tao surprising Elle with a movie night in her room at her house. So he has set her room up to be like a screening space. He's put down like string lights. He put up a sheet and set up a projector on her bed so that they could watch a short film that he made that he's been wanting to show her. He's like, I've been working on something that I really want to show you. I know you've been really bummed out since that interview kind of went shitty. And, ever since I made that video for Charlie when he was away, I realized that I love putting something together that makes people feel happy, like that makes the people that I care about feel joy. And this is like a form of creativity that really like resonates with me, right? Like I've never felt creative before this. This is my creativity. And I was like, okay. And he puts on the projector, a short film is on with a song, like a little clippy music video. It is a video of a ton of B-roll that Tao has managed to take of Elle, both when she's paying attention and when she's not paying attention.
Well, this has been him. Like every time we see him this season, he's had his camcorder on him.
Yeah.
And I love that. He's just got a bunch of candid videos and shots of her just doing her thing, being with her family, being with him, doing her art. It's so beautifully done. And they do this to the song The Most Beautiful Thing by Thomas Heaton. It was such a beautiful moment to watch him do this for Elle. Elle, who has been made to feel almost like an imposter. And here comes Tao pretty much saying like, this is who you are. This is what I see from the outside. And this is how I know you. This is how the people around you know you. There's nothing more romantic than the person you love showing you how they see you and how they perceive you.
This was another moment where I was like, oh, there's something in my eye, and I'm sniffling.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Yeah.
It's so sweet. Elle sees this short film, and how would you react? I know how I would react. We all know how I would react. She starts crying. This is the only way. She embraces Tao, and he just tells her straightforwardly, I guess that's just how I see you.
Yeah.
This beautiful girl I'm in love with who's really good at art and funny and beautiful. As they hug, a little butterfly, animated, flies around them and then off the screen.
Love it.
Love them. Elle tells him, I'm just scared that you won't get it. And she's obviously talking about kind of her experiences as a trans woman. Tao just tells her, like, I'll try. Yeah. I may not get it, inherently, but I'm always going to try. We cut from that scene with Tao and Elle to a scene of Nick casually laying on his bed on his laptop in his bedroom,
wrapped in a yellow and blue blanket.
And he's looking at the landing pages for University of Leeds. So, as Paola has mentioned, they live in like a suburban town near Kent, which is in a different part of England than Leeds. So Leeds is a bigger city, different part of the country that would be like several hours away. If Nick goes to University of Leeds and Charlie still has a year left at school, they're going to be apart a lot of the time. Something that Nick obviously worries a lot about is like Charlie's wellness after he goes to university. He's mentioned wanting to stay local and kind of makes it seem like he wants to be near his mom because they're very close and his mom is a single mother. But you as the viewer, and I'm sure as the reader of the graphic novel, can definitely put together that a lot of that also has to do with Charlie. Not even just like I want to be near my boyfriend, but like I want to be near my boyfriend to make sure he's okay.
Yeah.
And Nick has this moment, you know, where he slams his laptop shut. He's like starting to get a bit frustrated. And he has like this imagined moment where he has like Phantom Charlie sitting on his bed and it's like, don't leave me.
He starts to fantasize about Charlie. And then Phantom Charlie is like, don't leave me.
Mm-hmm.
That was a jump scare. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it literally
I'm
was
sorry, I
though.
won't leave you.
No, it really was a jump scare. And, you know, Nick is
A jump scare out of his fantasy.
he's feeling preliminary guilt for a decision he hasn't made yet because of how he's worried about how it will affect Charlie. Of course, at that moment is when Charlie has decided to arrive at Nick's house after storming out of his own home and metaphorically spitting in his mom's face. And he comes up into Nick's room and he's like, I'm just had a fight with my mom. She's being ridiculous. Like, no one wants me to do anything. I just want to have sex with you. Like, everyone's treating me like a kid. Which is like, I mean, objectively very funny. You know, Nick is he's always attentive. He's always comforting Charlie. He's always in a position to be like the one to sound things off of. He kind of tells Charlie, like, I think because that's Charlie's insecurity that he's expressing the most in this moment. Like, everybody thinks I can't handle anything. I can't handle having sex. I can't handle doing this because I'm too mentally ill. Nick is like, I think you're really strong. I think you can handle lots of stuff, right? Like, I don't think you're fragile. I don't think mental illness makes you incapable of doing all of these things. I feel like I'm not as strong as you are, and I'm feeling fragile. Sometimes I feel like when we're not together, I don't know who I am. And now I think it's bringing into perspective that, like, you know, at least me personally as a viewer, I've been like, Nick doesn't want to leave Charlie because everyone's worried about Charlie all the time. But it's also kind of like Nick has done so much self-discovery since meeting Charlie that I think he has tied a lot of pieces of his identity to Charlie. And so now he's like, I don't know who I am when you're not around or like when we're not together because like there are so many things I've discovered about myself because you were the catalyst.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that's tough because we never see a moment where we're like, oh, Nick is embarrassed about who he is. But we also haven't necessarily had to see Nick reaffirm his identity without having a boyfriend, without having a big gay group of friends.
Yeah. No, that's true. And he even says, without you around, I feel lost.
Yeah.
And I think we saw that visually through Journey.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's going through the distress of his boyfriend not being well.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like you said, there's so much of him tied to Charlie in this part of his journey.
He tells Charlie, like, he's really anxious about his future. He's scared to leave and that he doesn't really know how he feels about, like, going to university. Like, he's afraid to go far away. And he's just like, you know, I can't talk to anybody the way that I talk to you. I don't know what I'm doing. He gets emotional. This can be, like, a very emotional scene. I think that this experience that Nick is having is really relatable for people discovering their sexual identities when they're a little bit older, right? Or like having their sexual identities kind of like become more clear to them because of a person that they meet, because of a relationship that they're in, or like a sexual experience that they have.
Well, kind of how you see Sahar and Imogen.
Yeah.
Where Sahar's friend Imogen is what triggered a sexual awakening for her. That's what happened with Nick and Charlie.
Right.
Where it wasn't until he met Charlie that he realized, oh shit,
I like boys.
I guess I like boys.
Mm-hmm. Charlie listens to him. Now it's Charlie's turn, right? To be like attentive and supportive. And he's doing a really good job. And he's comforting Nick and they hug, they kiss. And of course, they're teenagers. They kiss. And then it becomes making out. And then it becomes like heavy making out, heavy petting. And Charlie ends up on Nick's lap. They keep checking in with each other. They focus a lot on consent. Is this okay? I know we were just talking about something heavy. Do you want to do this? And they're both kind of like, yes. And then like, well, do you want to do more than this? Is this okay? And they're both like, yes. We're so horny. Please.
Nobody's home.
No one's
Finally.
home, baby. They're home.
They're not going to get interrupted.
And Charlie's like, do you want to take your shirt off? And Nick is like, yes. And Charlie's like, I don't want to take my shirt off. And Nick is like, that's fine. Doesn't matter. You can keep your shirt on. Doesn't need to come off for what we're going to do. We see items of clothes comically come off the bed, right? Like we see like a shot of like a sweatshirt landing on the floor, a pair of pants landing on the floor, Nick's shirt on the floor. They get underneath the covers, and that's that, baby. That's Nick and Charlie. That's Nick and Charlie doing some stuff. And that wraps up the episode.
The way they shot this felt so much like the graphic novel, even almost by frame, where in the graphic novel, you're just seeing different frames of like, oh, a pair of pants on the ground, a shirt on the ground, something flying off, and then one of them touching a shoulder. And in doing it that way, they kept it very PG because you're only seeing those bits and pieces the same way you would have seen it in the book. So I thought that was a clever way to shoot that scene between Nick and Charlie.
And this is something that I think we've mentioned before in discussing this season, but like in interviews, we saw Joe Locke and Kit Connor talking about how like they were so broken out because of how much kissing they had to do and because they had to shave every day because they both grow facial hair because they are becoming men, and their faces were so irritated. They were so broken out. They were so red. They had tons of beard burn because all they were doing was fucking making out with each other in all of these different scenes. Yeah. And they had to like use so much makeup and also digitally cut down on some of their like aggressive, irritated faces.
So real quick, the song that they play before they start hitting the bases is Ode to a Conversation Stuck in Your Throat. It's the title of the song by Del Watergap. And the lyrics literally say, I don't want to fight this anymore. I just want to lay back and watch you pin me to the bed. I used to call you my best friend way back before you were my everything. Now I'm sucking your neck. And I was like, that is so on the nose.
Call the Love is Blind music, people.
That was so perfectly on the nose that I had to call it out.
And that wraps up episode 7.
Yes. Oh my God. And when we pick up in episode 8, it really picks up right where we left off, with Nick and Charlie laying in bed in a very post-coital fashion after exploring each other sexually for the first time. And the first dialogue from Charlie is, I can't believe we waited so long.
That's so funny. And that's also the way you want to feel. That's like the best case scenario, having your first significant sexual interaction, whether it is your first one ever or your first one with a specific person, and just being like, hell yeah, nice.
And then Nick answers, why are we like this? And just for a second, let's appreciate the fact that the first episode of this season ended with Nick saying their token, why are we like this? Mm-hmm. And the last episode of this season opens with Nick's token, why are we like this? As Charlie tries to stop him, he's like, no, we can't be this cheesy. No, baby, you are this cheesy and it's adorable and we love it. Charlie, though, a bit worried, asks Nick if he minded that he kept his shirt on. You know, and Nick reassures him that I don't fucking care that you had your shirt on. I loved every second of everything that just happened. I am good.
Nick is like, dog, I didn't care about that recipe, okay? That's not what I'm here for.
What color is even your shirt? Like, I have no idea.
I have never seen a shirt before.
I've never seen a shirt before.
So, ain't nobody care about that.
So they joke and they tease about wanting to practice some more when Nick asks if it still counts as sex if it's just touching. And Charlie drops a little gem for the audience when he says, I think sex can be all sorts of things.
Snaps.
We love that. And when Nick follows that up with, yeah, there's loads that we could do.
I'm sure there
Charlie's
are.
like, oh, so you've been researching.
Eye emoji.
And he immediately jumps to Nick's laptop to check his search history.
Which is objectively very funny.
Nick is trying to stop him. But Nick is trying to stop him for other reasons. Like he doesn't want him to see the universities that he's been researching. But he does see the universities that he's been researching, specifically the University of Leeds and Kent. Kent being local, but Leeds is relatively far. So Charlie worries. But Nick assures him that his top choice is local. So he's got nothing to worry about. And something he says that should have rang a bit of an alarm is, I've been kind of worried about being away from you. As soon as he said that, I feel like Charlie should have been like, wait, what? But no, Charlie's like, okay, yeah, your top choices are local, so it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
I just looked up the distance between Kent and Leeds. So Kent is in like the very southeast of England. Leeds is really up in like the northwest. Not all the way west, but like northwest of Kent. And it is a 4.5-hour drive on like a major highway.
So if he picks Leeds, it means they will have to do a long distance relationship. And Nick is terrified of that for himself. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's worried about Charlie, but he's equally worried for himself. Like he just expressed, he's not sure how to be without Charlie around. Okay, so real quick though. In Nick's room, while they've been in his room, right? It wasn't these specific scenes where I noticed he has this rattan leaf lamp over his nightstand, and I need to find it. I'm like, has that been there the whole time? And I went back, and it's been there this season. I love it. I'm going to source this, and I'm going to share it with you guys, because I'm sure somebody out there was like, that's a dope-ass lamp, and
let's hope.
I got you. So anyway, Charlie brushes it all off, with the assurance that Nick is going to be accepted into his top choice school, and his top choice school is local, and he's fully confident he's going to get in. Charlie's like, and you know what? I'm going to help you study. Study what? Your body, as they try to get fucking frisky again, one more time. But this time they get interrupted when Nick's quote unquote mom gets home. And I say quote unquote mom because we know his mom hasn't been around this season. But we assume she gets home, and Charlie starts to scramble to get dressed, but he can't find his clothes. He ends up sneaking out in another of Nick's sweaters. Nick's wardrobe is just like disappears little by little. Nick drives him home. They share I love yous before Charlie gets out of the car. And we get our title card apart with two hands that we're holding now separating. At first, going into this episode, that title card made me nervous apart. But I think overall, thematically, we see a lot of our main couples find ways to individualize themselves within their relationship. So Charlie walks in as Tori is coming down the stairs, and she looks at him and immediately knows and gives him all the eye emojis as she sees him with Nick's clothes on. Charlie teases back that she does the same thing with Michael. And I'm watching this like, oh, word? Wait, hold on. What do you mean she does the same thing with Michael? Okay, girl. But she says, no, that's different. And she won't answer when he asks her if she and Michael are dating. She just evades the question, runs back up the stairs. Across the house, Charlie's mom calls him into the kitchen, where just a few short hours ago, he stormed out of. And something that, again, I'm going to mention continues to irk me is how Charlie's dad just sees his way out. You actually have not seen this man involved in any of the uncomfortable parenting parts, whether that's by his design or his partner's design. It irks me either way. It's like all the uncomfortable parenting, all the awkward conversations, anything disciplinary, he leaves to his wife. They very rarely feel like a unit when it comes to these types of conversations and confrontations within their family.
They're very separate.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me, and it irks me. Anywho, to each their own. So he sees his way out and leaves Charlie to have a talk with his mom. She starts off by apologizing for snapping on him and promising to do better. But let me just say, she did not snap on him. She's not the one who lashed out. Charlie was the one that lashed out. She didn't say anything different in this conversation that she hadn't tried to say before Charlie stormed out of the house. But anyway, she continues and she opens up a bit about her own mother and her own experience with her mother and how overbearing she was and how she vowed to never be like her and now feels that maybe she's a lot more like her mom than she would like to be. Charlie assures her that she's not, kind of reassures her like, you're not like my grandmother. I hate her too, Mom. He knows she worries about him, especially since he hasn't been well, but he just wants to live his life like a normal teenager. She acknowledges this as he also acknowledges boyfriend sleepovers, aka a sexual relationship, is a very big step emotionally. So they do compromise that once Charlie's GCSEs are over, he can have his sleepover, aka sex with his boyfriend.
They could have had this exact conversation 3 hours ago.
Yes, but then Charlie wouldn't have got off, so it just
Ugh.
went so smoothly now that he's got a bit of a load off of his chest.
Wow. Gross. You're awful. You're the worst.
He's able to have this conversation with a clear head. So I'm proud of them having this conversation. It didn't go well the first time, but they were able to revisit it. We're able to compromise and be open with each other, which we haven't gotten to see them do very much throughout this whole series. So kudos to them too. Mm-hmm. So the next day, Charlie walks into school quite literally with the bounce and pep of somebody who did stuff with their boyfriend.
Oh my God.
As the song Love You by Flower of Love plays, Charlie enters into his GCSE study hall, and I must point out, this is completely different than how we saw Nick's study hall go just a year ago. There's no seating chart. The sign says, sit wherever you like. It's bright. It's colorful. There's way less tension.
You're right. Why is that?
That's almost a complete opposite experience than what Nick had when he did his study hall. Maybe this indicates the difference between Nick's feelings and the approach to his GCSEs that he was very worried about compared to Charlie's, where he's kind of like, I got this. He's smart. He's got everything down. Maybe that's the difference we're seeing. Also, Nick was sitting next to Ben fucking Hope.
Yeah, Ben fucking Hope.
You know, so... But yes, drastic difference between those two environments. Charlie even gets to sit next to Tao and Isaac, the Trum trio, who immediately see the cheese in this man's face and they know right away that he and Nick took it to the next level.
Ew.
Then we get a little montage of the next couple of days as Charlie's going through his GCSEs, Nick's researching universities, Charlie's rehearsing with Sahar's bands, which confirms he has agreed to play with them after she asked him at his birthday party. At the birthday party, he wasn't sure. He's like, I don't know. We'll see. Now we see him rehearsing with them, letting us know that he's on board and he's going to be participating at the fair that Sahar was talking about.
Hell yeah.
And then, of course, we see a few clips of Nick and Charlie trying to get frisky every chance they get. Anyway, so the day arrives for Nick's university tours with Tara, Elle, and Imogen. Charlie goes to see them off and mentions, you'll be back for the fete on Saturday, right? It starts at 4. And Nick's quick, I'll be there, is cinema for he will not make it. Or he's going to die and that's the last time they'll see each other. It's one or the other. There's no in between. The I'm going to see you, I'm going to make it, see you then. As soon as they say that shit in a show or a movie, you're done.
It's like when a character coughs and you're like, oh,
there it is. They're sick. They're gonna die.
Tuberculosis, the consumption.
So right there, the show let us know Nick is not gonna make it on time.
Oh God.
But we're gonna see this play out anyway. They all head out. As Nick drives off, he looks up at his rear view to see Charlie waving them off. So 2 things. This kind of feels like a visual representation of what Nick's feeling when he thinks about university, right? He thinks about going to university as leaving Charlie behind. And 2, we also get a shot that very similarly parallels episode 4, when Charlie was the one leaving Nick for a while to focus on his mental and emotional healing. Mm-hmm. So in Journey, in episode 4, Charlie had to leave Nick behind to be able to focus on himself and heal. Nick going to university requires Nick to leave Charlie behind for a bit so he can focus on himself. This scene obviously feels a lot more optimistic, but still holds that same sentiment of having to move forward on their own to allow for growth, which is a lot of the theme for this episode. Nick and the girls arrive to Kent, Nick's first choice for university, and they arrive in a whopping 15 minutes, and everyone's thoroughly underwhelmed. They're not overwhelmed.
Can you ever be just whelmed?
Can you ever be just whelmed? No, they are underwhelmed. As they continue on to the next schools, they kind of all start talking about what they see for themselves in the future, what they would like, right? Ideally. Imogen says she definitely wants to go somewhere new, while Elle wants to go somewhere with a big queer scene. And I love that she says, I need my people around me. When they ask Nick what he would like, he only answers that it would be nice to live at home, so his mom wouldn't have to be on her own. And he wants to be close to Charlie. When Imogen asks, well, what's going to happen when Charlie goes to the university the following year? And the look on Nick's face literally says he hadn't thought about that shit. He was like, oh, damn.
Being a teenager.
Ooh, damn, I guess you're right. So as they make their way to Oxford, they stay the night at a hotel. On the first night, Imogen and Nick share a room. Now, Imogen starts to get all weird about boys and girls sharing a room. You know, she's like, oh, isn't this a little weird? And Nick is like,
girl, well, no.
Good thing we're platonic friends. We're fine, right?
Lord.
Girl, no, take that shit somewhere else. Like, honey, relax. There's 2 whole ass beds. There's no single bed trope for you here.
So
okay?
Funny.
Look away. But, you know, she kind of keeps the awkward going by mentioning how weird it was that she used to like him. And then she goes on to confess that she might not have actually liked him at all.
Girl, what?
That was your whole plot in season 1. What she says is that as one of the cool girls, she thinks she only felt pressured to have a boyfriend. She liked the attention she got from boys, but in reality, when she really thinks about it, she hasn't ever really liked a boy.
I think that's like a pretty relatable experience. I think that happens to a lot more people than we think. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
I think a lot more people exist somewhere in the middle of the sexuality or attraction spectrum than we know of, but because our media and everything around us, our society that is patriarchal, models so much of how much we should lead our own relationships. You know, I think sometimes people kind of like, because of these expectations from society, will just ignore their internal biological functioning.
I think this is something that a lot of teenagers face and have a hard time really naming, right? Because you're kind of doing all this stuff to be cool and popular that you think you need to do to be cool and popular. And you like the feeling of being cool and popular, but you're still kind of unhappy with yourself and not really sure why your relationships don't work, right? Because they all feel inauthentic, you know? And I think also the show finally says the thing that we've been saying for the past couple of seasons about Imogen, is that she's a sweetheart. We love her, but she does and says what gets people to like her, because what she likes is having people's positive attention. Yeah. So whatever's going to give her the people's positive attention of whatever group she belongs to at that moment is what she's going to do. And now she feels where she's not sure who she is. And I think for her age, that's kind of normal. Yeah. This isn't something that should be looked down on. I think this is, like you said, most people, this is the level of discovery you're going through at this age. It's not all most teenagers that are Charlie or that are Tara and Darcy that are like, nah, this is who I am. They haven't reached that level of certainty yet. So, you know, she looks at Nick and she's like, who even am I? And Nick comforts her by saying, you're my friend, letting her know the person you are is a person deserving of my friendship. You're this person with this amazing personality that deserves all the love and friendship that you have. You don't need to question that.
Mm-hmm.
So love that interaction between them. So the next day, they finally have their visit to Oxford, which is one of Tara's top choices. She ends up absolutely hating it, making her realize that she is not interested in this level of academia. That's something she wasn't expecting. So now that that's something now she's got to deal with. Oh shit, I hate it. Where does that lead me now? So after this visit, they have a little picnic at the park. And the subject of Nick and Charlie's activities comes up because apparently Tao can't keep other people's business to himself.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's how some friend groups work. So the girls, led by Elle, take Nick on a little field trip of their own to make him buy condoms and lube as a rite of passage. So this is such a funny scene when Nick sets down the lube and condoms at the counter in front of the cashier.
With 3 girls behind him.
The cashier just looks at him like, okay.
Okay, my man. Fist
my guy.
bump. No.
Oh, while he's standing there with these 3 fine ass ladies. Oh no. Back home, we see Charlie practicing with Sahar's band while Tao and Isaac look on.
Mm-hmm.
Tao, of course, is documenting every second. And Charlie mentions how he watches the video that he made for him anytime that he's feeling down, and it helps cheer him up. He has this little moment where he tells Tao and Isaac how much he loves them. He doesn't feel like he ever says it enough. And then they all share a big trio hug. And they're so fucking precious. I love them. We also find out in this scene that the song that the band is practicing was written by Sahar, and it is about Imogen, which I thought was very funny.
Woo!
Oh, man.
Wow, that is so fucking vulnerable. Fuck!
Oh, yes. She's like, we're not like star-crossed lovers or anything. And Tao's like, okay, girl.
Okay.
And so back with Nick and the girls. Now it's time to visit Leeds University next. And it turns out that Nick fucking loves the culture at this school.
Mm-hmm.
The tour guide walks him through the sports department, takes him to see the rugby team, and then at the end of the tour introduces him to his partner that plays in the rugby team. It's almost like he literally showed him himself.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Nick, I'm you here.
I'm you in the future. Happy.
You know, you're happy for him because he felt so welcome there and felt like he belonged there. Like, only downfall for Nick after this visit is that he is going to be 4 hours away from home.
Jesus.
And he feels that moving away from Charlie might hurt him and Charlie. On the way back, Elle gives him a bit of tough love, you know, by bringing up his people-pleasing tendencies and urges him to consider putting himself first. Nick admits that he's scared to be apart from Charlie for his own sake. This isn't just about, I want to please Charlie or I'm worried about Charlie. He makes it clear, like, I don't know who I am without him. And Tara jumps in and she says, maybe it's time for you to find out. So, oof, you gotta love good, tough love friends. We catch up with Charlie at a session with Jeff, where Jeff notices that Charlie has been a lot more upbeat lately. And Charlie mentions that he has been feeling okay lately. Although he's had some bad days, he's been able to get through them. And then he proceeds to ask if they can move their sessions from once weekly to once every other week. So that's a big step for Charlie's treatment. And even in this session, we hear Charlie speak so much more than we did the first time we saw him sitting with Jeff. In this session, he's almost walking himself through his own feelings. Mm-hmm. Again, amazing. Great progress. Something he says that stood out to me was, I've got people in my life who can help me if things get really bad again. And that stood out because this is something that at his first outpatient session, he completely dismissed. Mm-hmm. He saw it as a mark of weakness that he had help from others. Here, he brings it up as a mark of strength. He goes on to say that even though he loves Nick, he realizes he needs other people, his sister, his family, his friends, his therapist. On his own, with the help of all those people, he's able to begin to grow out of this dependency that he's developed with Nick and start growing more as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see him prepare for his exams. We see him apply to be head boy at Truum. And we see him get ready to perform in front of the crowd, all to the tune of A Good Thing by Claude. Which is, it felt so upbeat. It felt so positive. Like, as the viewer, you're like taking in a breath. You feel a lot lighter as you're watching Charlie go through this progress. Even as he gets stressed, you can see his intrusive thoughts about his body literally begin to creep in by the way of this, like, the dark scribbly clouds that they do. He's able to shake it off and put on a fitted shirt instead of his usual oversized sweater. And it's June, so sun's out, guns out, baby. He's in a way that we've never seen him before, really. Out with his short sleeves, fitted shirt, and feeling good about it. Seeing this change on him puts an immediate smile on our faces, but specifically Tori's face. They go off to the fair. It's adorably Heartstopper. At the entrance, we see blooms and stars. The whole gang is there, except for Nick and the girls, of course, who are now stuck in traffic and will not be making it on time. Meanwhile, Michael can't find Tori now and comes to Charlie for help. Apparently, Tori is actively avoiding him now because he's brought up the subject of boyfriend and girlfriend. And as Michael's talking to Charlie about this, he goes on to say that labels don't even matter to him. He doesn't care what society thinks about their relationship as long as they're happy. He just figured that he should have the conversation with her, right? To see where they're at. Oh, you got to protect Michael at all costs.
He's like, wow, he's an angel. Tori made him in a lab.
So Charlie tries to go find Tori to help out Michael. When he finds her, she sees Michael behind him and she pulls Charlie onto the Ferris wheel as an escape.
Aww.
Okay, so real quick, continuity issue. When they show Michael behind Charlie, we see the Ferris wheel behind Michael. When Tori grabs Charlie, they go the opposite direction, but end up at the Ferris wheel, away from Michael. But who knows? Maybe they just went in a circle. Okay.
They didn't think Paola, Eagle Eyes, would be watching Heartstopper.
Anyway, once Charlie and Tori are on the Ferris wheel, he asks her if she doesn't want to be Michael's girlfriend. She unknowingly mirrors Michael's own words when she says, "What does girlfriend even mean?" Charlie makes a very funny joke about them having way too much trouble with labels for a straight couple. She corrects him by saying that they are not a couple. Tori knows that Michael really likes her, but she doesn't feel like she can return those feelings. She tells Charlie that she wishes she was more like him, hopeful with the optimism to try. And Charlie tells her something we've all been seeing in Tori this whole season. Subtly, but we've all been seeing it. And that is that she has tried so much for Charlie, feels so much, and indeed does have so much love to give. And he tells her, "You don't have to give it all to me." And follows that up with, "I'm okay now, Tori. I still have bad days, but I'm okay." Oof. And they hug. When I see them share this embrace on the Ferris wheel, I can't help but think of the first time we saw Tori take Charlie into her arms at the start of season 1, where he has this moment that he says, "I ruin everyone's life." And she hugs him and says, "Well, you don't ruin my life." Ugh. To see them go from that to this now at the end of season 3, where Charlie's telling her, "You don't have to give all your love to me. I'm okay now, Tori," was like, oh my God, just fills my heart, gave me chills. And so this Ferris wheel has taken them full circle as it stops and Tori goes off and talks to Michael.
Yay!
Now, in the book, this is important. In the book, during this ride on the Ferris wheel, Tori actually comes out to Charlie as asexual. When Charlie makes a joke, "You two sure have trouble with labels for a straight couple," she replies with, neither one of us is straight, Charlie. And Charlie, at that moment, thinks back to a few occasions where Michael talks to him about like being obsessed with like Pedro Pascal and how sexy Paul Mescal is. And I mean, like, yeah, and that's even before he saw them together in Gladiator 2.
I'm
like,
dead. You're the worst person.
So Michael can be either bi or pan, or knowing him, he probably doesn't even label himself as anything at all. Mm-hmm. However, Tori in the book did open up about having had sex and realizing that she doesn't experience sexual attraction in that way. Mm-hmm. And in this conversation, Charlie kind of helps her separate that idea with the fact that she loves and cares about Michael, and he loves and cares for her, and that's all that matters. You don't want to have sex? Don't have sex. It's not about sex. It's about you caring and loving about this person and them caring and loving about you. However that relationship works for you is how it works for you. Mm-hmm. They don't make this explicit at all for Michael and Tori in the series. And I think a lot of people kind of felt like they robbed Tori of her storyline because they kind of oversimplified it.
I have a theory that Tori is going to get like her own movie or her own special or something like that.
I can definitely see them wanting to do some type of spinoff.
Like Solitaire, a Heartstopper story.
Yeah, I can see that because we do see bits of Solitaire in this season, mm-hmm. right? Particularly when Charlie is going through the roughest part of his mental health and has to go to the mental health facility. The bulk of Solitaire mm-hmm. takes place in that span between like, I believe it's like January, February, where this season completely skips January and February. After New Year's, we go straight to April, where Charlie's having a session with Jeff. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, it's been 4 months. And we see the past 4 months through Charlie's perspective. We don't see what Tori's been up to or going through. Mm-hmm. A lot happens in the Heartstopper universe within that time frame that isn't even brought up. So I feel like maybe that means they might want to do a spinoff and have Tori have her own story. I can see that being very successful among the Heartstopper fandom.
And knowing how involved, like literally how granular, how nitty gritty Alice Oseman gets with mm-hmm. the show, picking the songs, taking the pictures, like so many things that she does personally. She had to be very closely involved with the decision to like blur Tori's story.
Yeah.
Because Tori is almost like a little bit of a self-insert for her, right? Like Tori is a very fictionalized version of herself. You know, she's an older sister with a little brother. She's asexual and aromantic, and like I don't think that she would
leave her story untold.
Exactly. Obviously, she finds value in her story. That's how this whole thing spawned. It's out of Tori's story. Like, Tori's story is not the secondary one. Ironically, Charlie's story is the secondary one.
Yeah.
So
let's hope that's why it's taking so long to announce season 4. Let's see.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Tori's asexuality is only hinted at in the series. There's a specific scene that Alice Oseman included specifically for Tori, and that went completely under my radar. Mm-hmm. I read about this in an article through an interview, and it's during the New Year's Eve episode at the end when Tori's walking off, the colors of the fireworks going off behind her. You know that scene where she's walking off, she leaves Nick and Charlie, mm-hmm. the fireworks are going off.
Is it the asexual flag?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, you know, a lot of people feel that they kind of cheaped out on Tori's story, but hey, they might have their reasons. Mm-hmm. There's could be some intention behind that. Maybe Tori's getting a spinoff, or maybe they just wanted to show that, hey, you don't need to fit into a label, right? Because I feel like that's kind of Michael's thing as well. And that's 100% valid as well. So the time comes for Sahar's band, Queer Intentions.
Very funny.
Dope ass name.
Very funny.
The time comes for them to play. Charlie's nerves become worse as he realizes Nick really isn't going to make it on time. But he looks over to his family and to his friends, shouting and cheering for him, and is able to focus on them as he begins to play. Mm-hmm. They play an original song that they wrote for the show, C'est la vie, by Leela Khan and Addie Esker Chase. He's the one who writes the scores for the series. And as we learned earlier, this is a song meant to be written by Sahar about Imogen. Mm-hmm. I think it's telling that parts of the words of the song are French, maybe hinting that some of these feelings for Sahar might have come to a head while they were in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
So the rest of the gang actually ends up arriving just in time to catch half of the performance.
I was really glad that they didn't do the trope of like they arrive as soon as everybody's off stage.
Yeah, no, I'm glad they arrived and they got to see half of the performance.
Yeah.
Nick got to see his boo play on stage and he is very impressed by his drummer boy. And as soon as he gets off stage, tells him how good he looks. He admires him in his tea and tells Charlie, "You look so good." That night, the parents who have agreed that this is the night that Charlie's going to get to sleep over at Nick's house, they say their goodbyes and they leave Charlie and Nick with their friends at the fair. You know, and I think something that's important to keep in mind is this isn't just Charlie's first sleepover at his boyfriend's house. This is really the first night Charlie sleeps out of the house since he's been back home this year. So as his parents, you can see why that can feel emotional or why that is a big deal. It's a big move for everyone. And it's also a big step towards Charlie becoming more independent, period. So this season comes to an end very much how it started, with the gang together, having a blast. It is so refreshing to see them all together after everything everyone has been through this season. They're all appreciating each other like just a bit extra, right? They even conspired to take Isaac's book away this time. And I know we haven't done much of Isaac book watching this season, right? With so much going on. But this particular book that they take from him is called I'll Give You the Sun by Jan D. Nelson. And this book, it's about two siblings, two fraternal twins actually, going through their formative years and how they navigate that, how they navigate love, sexuality, and their own sibling relationship. And I just thought that was so fitting and intentional to display this book at the culmination of this season after we've seen how much this journey has affected both Charlie and Tori. And there's a part where Tori and Michael say bye to everyone. And Isaac kind of like ponders and asks out loud, "Oh, so are they dating? Or, like what's the deal there?" And Charlie obviously doesn't have an answer. He couldn't get an answer from Tori. He's just like, I am not sure. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I found it interesting that the camera makes sure to kind of stay on Isaac for a bit as it leaves Isaac kind of thinking, because he overheard Michael's protests about labels earlier, right? So I feel like this makes Isaac's wheels turn a little bit. I'm not sure what that means for him, but it definitely leaves him wondering about that. And as we touch base with the rest of the gang, Elle tells Tao that she wants to go abroad for art school. Paris, Berlin, abroad, out, away. And Tao, with no hesitation, says, "That's so cool. I'll have to find a job so that I can pay for my international travel because my mom doesn't even pay for my bus fare."
Oh.
And it's like, wow, the growth of that. The fact that he's no longer scared about the change that might come with that. Rather, he's now fully embracing that change and excited for her and that change. That's amazing. And Nick overhears this conversation. His face immediately communicates two things: joy for them and immediate uncertainty as he holds on to Charlie. He almost holds him tighter after he really thinks about that. We're seeing that anxiety of him thinking he's going to be away from Charlie. Mm-hmm. Then we catch up with Tara and Darcy, who are heading out with Gran. And at this point, they might not know exactly where they're headed as far as their university future goes, but they're both safe and happy and fully supportive of each other through every obstacle and journey that they've come across up until this point. Darcy feels loved and accepted for who they are. And Tara is taking the pressure off and giving herself more time to figure out what she wants to do. And then finally, Nick and Charlie head out with sparks flying. And they could not get back to Nick's house fast enough.
Whew.
They get in, they're making out. Nick's taking his shirt off. He grabs Charlie, pulls him towards the bed, but Charlie stops him and asks him to take off his shirt as well. He asks Nick to do it. The person that's been with him every step of the way through this journey. The significance of this is so huge. For Charlie, he started off this season scared to say, I love you to Nick. Scared for other people to see him shirtless. Scared for Nick to see him shirtless. Scared for Nick to see his vulnerabilities, his scars. And here, he has reached this moment where he has kind of shed all of those layers, not only for his relationship, but for himself. And now he's ready to continue to grow as an individual alongside Nick. Not because of Nick, alongside Nick. Every step of the way. Barefoot. I say that because first episode of this season, I found it to be so symbolic that he walked Charlie home barefoot. And he's taken the brunt of this journey as well. So as Million Little Reasons by Oscar Lang plays, Nick and Charlie fully give themselves to each other and go all the way. And that's a wrap for season 3. Oh my gosh. What a journey. What a roller coaster this season has been. Holy shit. Like, when we first started covering this show 3 months ago.
Fucking fuck.
If anybody would have told me by the end of this that I would have cried on mic 3 separate times, I would have laughed my dumbass laugh in their face. And here we fucking are laughing and fucking crying. I feel like this season ended so neatly tied up. They closed the season off in a way that felt satisfactory in case the show doesn't get renewed for a season 4. It would really suck if it didn't get renewed for a season 4, but Netflix is a bitch.
Sponsor us.
The fact that they haven't announced it at this point, 3 months since its release, is definitely a bit concerning. But who knows? Maybe a lot of things are in the works that we don't know yet. But this last episode of the season really made sure to bring a lot of things full circle. And whatever ends felt loose, you can put your own conclusion on. You know, I feel like Charlie about it. I feel okay. There will be bad days, right? Without Heartstopper.
You're ridiculous.
But I'll feel okay, I guess, you know? I don't like that Nick doesn't tell Charlie about Leeds.
Like how much he loved it.
Yeah. He does tell him in the book, though. Book 5 closes out with Nick telling Charlie about Leeds. They look up the commute and they're pretty much deciding, like, we'll figure it out. And Charlie's pretty much just says, you know, this makes you happy. It's the school you love, so we'll figure it out. And then they go all the way. And then that's how the book closes out. But they kind of left it open-ended in the show. So book 6 is currently in the works. So Alice definitely has more story to tell. Season 4, if it does happen, will likely also include parts of the novella Nick and Charlie, which came out in 2015. It's about to turn a decade. Isn't that crazy?
I will repeat what I said to Ryan last night, which is that Alice Oseman is a year younger than me. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all.
You should have wrote the book, Nadja. You still can write the book.
You shut your fucking mouth.
Also, you can keep up with Alice Oseman's webcomics as she progresses on the events of book 6. We'll provide the links to that in our show notes. She releases graphics every month that progress the story, so you can keep up with that there. I can't believe we're wrapping this up. Oh my God, I love talking about this show. I love these characters. I'm going to literally start watching this from the beginning. Literally. Episode 1, season 1.
I think this is such a good candidate for comfort show.
It is. It's the first season.
First season.
The
very cute,
third
very
season
fluffy.
took me out emotionally.
True.
The first season, first and second, for sure.
We do be crying when we talk about the third season.
Oh my God.
Lord. And the thing with this show is, like, it's not a background show. You're going to sit and watch it every time, but you're going to love it every time.
There's always something to pay attention to. There's always something in the background. There's always like little Easter eggs and symbolism behind their colors and their setting.
It's
Fucking
all
love it.
the choices that they make. You know, that's something, obviously, as we discuss a lot, like on this podcast, those are choices that we find really interesting, right? And I say that from like a different perspective as a person who's a designer, right? I design things at the product level. I'm designing a shirt, sweater, pair of pants, etc. You build things from the ground up. I'm looking at, you know, a bunch of buttons and fabric and some thread, and I'm like, all right, what are we making with this? And that is what they do with this story. That is what they do when you are taking a written medium and visualizing it. They have the bonus aspect, I guess, of the source material being a graphic novel. You can kind of use that as a storyboard in and of itself. You know, what kind of shots do we want to capture? How do we want to do this? But they're constantly making choices, literally the raw materials from the ground up, being like, what is the house going to look like? What kind of weather do we want there to be? Because that's also a different choice, right? Like, is it going to be raining? Rain plays a significant part in multiple scenes throughout the show. Is it going to be sunny? Are they going to be at the park? Are Charlie's sheets striped? Are the posters in his room topical? Like, those are all 1 million different choices. I make this joke sometimes to my friends when they're talking about like, oh, I got this new pair of shoes. And I'm like, that was 100 meetings between like 50 different people agreeing to make a pair of shoes. Now, like, I'm multiplying that by like 1,000, being like, this show that I love that has so many fantastic details is 1,000 meetings between 1,000 different people agreeing on certain things because they know that it's significant to telling this story the right way.
Well, I hope that Netflix appreciates that and values that and renews the show for a 4th season.
And season 4 will very likely be the last one.
Alice Oseman herself has expressed that season 4 will conclude Nick and Charlie's story in Heartstopper. So, sister, as we typically conclude the movies we cover,
let's go.
Let me ask you some questions.
Let's go.
As far as the Heartstopper series go, books or show?
Come on now. That's a no-brainer. And that's not because the books aren't good. The books are really good. It's because the show is so three-dimensional, so colorful. Oh my God, just the colors. It's so good. The acting is so good.
You know, dude, the soundtrack alone.
Oh, man.
Yes, I would have to go show as well. This one, I think this one we've answered a million times. Will your significant other watch this with you? Yes. I watched this with my significant other, my 12-year-old significant other.
Yeah, Ryan loves this show. He fucking loves this show. He'll watch it with me anytime.
Yeah, for sure. Generational trauma much?
Ooh.
Huh?
No, there's a bit of that. There's a bit of generational trauma with Charlie's grandmother, his mom, and himself, and their fraught relationships. Oh, yeah. There is a bit of generational trauma alluded to Mr. Farouk, right? Like not exploring his sexuality until he's an adult. Yeah. And there's some generational trauma with Nick and having an absentee father and obviously his own conflicts with his brother.
And how that affects his brother and their relationship for sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's sprinkled in there, baby. Yeah. We get all different kinds of little bits of trauma in this show to explore and cry about. Ooh. Any favorite moments of this season?
This season, one that really sticks out in my mind, not just because it was in the episode we just finished discussing, but when Charlie puts on the t-shirt and in the mirror, you can see some of his scars on his arm and he leaves the t-shirt on anyway. Yeah. I really love that. And this is not really something I've talked about on the pod, but I've struggled with self-harm throughout my life, not in the same way that Charlie does. And choosing to kind of transparently show yourself to the world is a very easy decision for some people and a very fraught decision for other people. I totally understand Charlie like looking in the mirror and being like, oh, this is visible, and like needing to take a second and be like, okay, I'm still gonna do it.
And we've said this a million times, but Charlie just displays bravery at every turn. throughout his full journey since season 1. Everything that he's been able to endure has been because of his bravery and his confidence, really. And I feel like he questions that so much, but it's one of those things
it's like an integral part of him.
That is so integral to him. Yes.
It's so foundational to who he is. Like, he has such a strong sense of identity.
Yes.
Even if that identity is just kind of like, I am a gay English teen boy. Even just knowing that, you know, like just knowing that about yourself already brings such a big sense of certainty that adults in his life sometimes don't even feel, right? Or we're seeing their classmates, like his classmates, discover in real time things he's already known about himself for years. Other people are just learning. And that brings this sense of, you know, this underlying confidence that he doesn't even seem to know he possesses.
And that everyone around him admires.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Do they stay together? This is a question we ask after we cover all our lovely rom-coms. Obviously, in a coming of age, it's hard to say, do they stay together? But I think we've all decided that Nick and Charlie grow old together.
That their end game.
That's their end game.
I will say, I love that idea. I'm a hopeless romantic.
As somebody who ended up marrying their high school sweetheart.
Yes, you did.
It's possible.
It is.
It's possible. Nick and Charlie are endgame.
I love that. When you've got the best, you don't need the rest.
Bars. And I believe it was Christmas or the week of Christmas that Alice Oseman put out a comic or an illustration of Nick and Charlie moving into their first apartment together.
Aww.
So come on now, and decorating for their first Christmas, and they had a puppy. They even had an announcement of Mr. Farouk and Mr. Ajayi's wedding up on the wall. So yes, according to Alice Oseman, she also believes that Nick and Charlie are endgame.
Alice Oseman was like, 2024 is looking rough, and I'm going to give you guys a little something, just a little treat.
We all need joy. 2025 is looking
stop.
rough. Ooh. All right. And now for the last question. On a scale from 1 to ardently admire and love, how do you feel about this show?
Oh, the show? Oh my God. It's like a 9.5, 9 3/4.
I think I ardently admire and love this show.
I know you do. I know. I'm like, it's like, this is the closest to a 10. This and 2005 Pride and Prejudice.
On two different spectrums, right? Two different genres,
things.
2 different things.
But I love them
But give
so
you the
much.
same warm, fuzzy feeling. Yeah.
I love them so much. This show did a lot of things for me as an adult I wish could have been done when I was a teenager.
Yeah, I think a lot of us can say that.
Yeah.
So there we are, guys.
Alice Oseman, you fucking did it. Jesus.
There we are, sisters. We have made it this far. Thank you so much for hanging with us as we covered this amazing series from the beginning. Thank you for sticking with us and listening to our impromptu therapy sessions as we recap Heartstopper. Thanks to our listeners who messaged us consistently to cover this show. We're so glad that you did, because it pushed us to watch it. It pushed us to cover it. And we are now forever fans and forever grateful. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking with us. We hope you enjoyed this recap as much as we enjoyed putting it together.
And for those of you who are ready for us to go back to movie content, fear not, baby.
Yeah, hold on tight. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, please leave a review anywhere you get your podcasts. Come and find us on Instagram at sisflixpodcast. Shoot us an email at sisflixpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from you guys. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you have any suggestions or any movie requests for us to cover in the future.
And don't hesitate to find us on Patreon if you are interested in subscribing for some bonus content over on the Sisflix feed.
Absolutely. That definitely helps us continue to grow our pod. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, everyone.